We're going to be joined by Dave Gettleman momentarily, and I think he is just about set. So let's welcome in the Senior Vice President of the New York Giants and the General Manager, Dave Gettleman, who joins us. Dave, first of all, congratulations on a fun offseason. Were you expecting to be that heavily involved in a lot of the free agents, or is it something that just kind of developed because of opportunity?
Well, a lot of it was opportunity. It's kind of interesting. It was like an old school free agency period. Guys came in, you had an opportunity to spend time with them and get to know them a little bit as people. We had thorough physicals on everybody. So it was just, opportunity met need, and we just felt it was the right thing to do.
Dave, I want to go back and talk about when this pandemic hit. It changed how everybody did things. So campuses were closed. Your scouts had to figure out, or you had to figure out what your scouts could do, what access they would have. And then you had players that opt out. So now here you are evaluating players that maybe didn't play this year that are in this year's draft. And you have, just a truncated season. Talk about some of the adjustments that you guys had to make in order to really get the evaluations that you needed.
Well, the colleges were very cooperative in that most of the schools actually had Zoom calls for the scouts. So the scouts would have an opportunity to at least get basic information, and then they would have to work their sources, at the school in the building. And it was difficult because the only thing, our scouts are spread all over the country. And one of the things we decided was once there was a season, I told the scouts, I was talking to Ronnie Barnes, our medical special, who's in charge of our medical department. We talked to Ronnie about it, and what we told them was if they had to, I wanted them to see games every weekend, so that at least that way they could get an up close and personal view of the player physically. We told them if they had to, they could spend the night either at the the night before the game or the night after the game in a hotel. I just wanted them on the road for just one day or one overnight. So they got to see them there. There were some All-Star games. You guys know the Senior Bowl was played, the Gridiron, the NFLPA game. So, excuse me, there were some games. There was the HBCU Bowl. So, there was some opportunity to see these guys physically. But it's made it very difficult. The opt-out piece is obviously crazy. I've spoken to other professional sports GMs who've drafted in this atmosphere, and what were some of the things they thought about. And then, of course, we had a very lively conversation about how internally about how we were going to deal with the opt-outs, and not look at them as guys that quit their teams or whatever, but how we really viewed them on a case-by-case basis. So there's been a lot of balls juggled in the air. It's been very different, but at the end of the day, it's what these guys do between the white lines on Saturdays. So that's really what you're gauging these kids by.
Dave, from an intel collection standpoint, is it maybe even more important this year, whether it's members of your coaching staff that have just come from college or relationships that you and your staff have with the college head coaches to try to get that information that maybe you couldn't get by being there as often as you were?
Absolutely, Bob. Obviously we've got a number of coaches on Joe's staff are just only recently removed from college, so they've obviously maintained their connections. Plus, I got to tell you, our college scouts do a great job. They're very well connected, and they're able to touch the coaches as well. So between Joe and his staff and our college guys, we were able to get the intel we felt we needed, and that's allowing us to really truly vet each and every one of these kids on our draft board.
Dave, I want to talk about the shiny toy mentality that fans have. Every year around the draft, they get infatuated with the next new thing. But there is, in your world, you draft players the year before that, in the year before that. So there is a development curve that you have on players. So when people say, well, you need this or you need that, they don't have a clear understanding of how you guys value the guys you drafted in their ascension or their development. Can you talk a little bit about that and how it influences decisions you make this year just based on what you already have?
Exactly. And the other part of that, Kyle, is they don't know our practice squad guys that spent the full year on our practice squad. They're in meetings, they're practicing, and you watch them develop. So we value the back end of our roster a little bit differently than the average person because, as you said, it's the next greatest thing is all anybody's interested in. And, for what it's worth, we actively evaluate our players all throughout the year. And then, one of the things we do is we take a look at who's available in unrestricted free agency. We take a look at who's available in the draft at the same time, so that as we make plans for free agency, we know how we want to, what we want to attack. And again, the first thing you got to do is evaluate your team, as we've already talked about it, and then understand and be honest and realize what you need. So there's a marriage going on, and like I said, it's people don't know how good your young backup tackle is progressing, or your young backup, safety is progressing. They don't know that because they're not at practice. These guys may not play a ton of snaps on Sunday, but we're very conscious of that of their development, and then how we're going to fill in, behind them.
So is it safe to say, so if you got a guy, let's say the edge is the new buzzword, right? And you got a guy who got injured, like a Lorenzo Carter, and you know what his progression is the conversation now, and I'm just using Lorenzo as an example, but position A. Is the discussion now, okay, is this guy that is in the draft, or this group of guys, if we had to draft him with the guy we have here, would he be better? Is that the type of conversations that you guys have?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can't, you can't be afraid of draft. If you draft over a player, you draft over a player. You can't have too many good players at any position. You can't, and you can't pass up a really good player, even if you think you have even if you believe, that you have a solid player. If when you have an opportunity to draft and you have an opportunity to draft over him, think of it, you've created competition, and either way, whoever wins the job, you've created quality depth. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, everybody understands that your entire roster is going to play. Before the season's over, your 53-man roster and most of your practice squad, they're going to end up playing.
Yeah, it's like when you were the director of pro personnel and Ernie Accorsi with Strahan and Osi on the roster, and Tuck says, hey, Matthias Kiwanuka's there. We got to take him. And, that led to Super Bowls. Kiwi was a member of 2 Super Bowl championship teams. Exactly.
People look at you like you have brain damage now when you do things like that. And but you do those things because, especially at some positions, you can't not do it is probably a poor way to say it, but that's what I believe.
Dave, this program tonight is for season ticket holders, so we have some questions from season ticket holders. I've got a couple of them for you here. This is from Scott Stefanik from section 124. Kind of what Carl talked about as far as the limited college season. Do you think that there might be a greater amount of overlooked talent that's going to be available later in this draft than maybe in other years?
I don't think that, because what's happened is, because of the pandemic, we've almost become crazy people about, and we evaluated every single player, on the Division I teams. We've really been very conscious of it, and and there's been an incredible load created because of that. And oh, by the way, a lot of the kids we wrote reports on are going back to college for another year. But I don't think there'll be many guys overlooked. Everybody's still doing their homework. The only thing is, you just don't have the that you haven't been able to put your gloves on people. That's the biggest difference between this draft and all others.
Another question from a season ticket holder is Leon Batista. Generally speaking, in the job that you sit in, how tough is it personally to release or trade somebody that you drafted yourself?
You know, it's funny. Obviously, you know, when I was in Carolina, Ron Rivera used to kid me. He used to say, wait until you have to cut one of your own draft picks. And, you know, it's not fun. You know, cutting a player is not fun. You know, you feel like you're shattering dreams. And it's like firing someone. That's never fun. You know, it's not easy. But at the end of the day, you have to do what's in the best interest of the Giants. That's what we do. And while it's not fun, and I mean, the first thing you got to do is figure out why you're in this position, and not make the same mistake again. But yeah, it's not fun. I've had to do it, and I don't enjoy it. And but you have to do what's best in the best interest of the organization all the time.
Carl, you got the final one?
Okay, Dave. So everyone that's looking, they want to know, who are you picking at 11?
I'm picking you. I've watched you run around. I think you could still play.
Would I be an edge or an off-ball linebacker, or what do they call me these days?
I'll tell you, with your length, you know, we'd marry you up with Lorenzo, and you guys would go at it.
Okay.
Hey, Dave, I mean, this isn't giving away any state secrets. I'm sure in the facility right now, you guys have got your board relatively set. We're 8 days away from the draft, but just we know quarterbacks are going 1, 2, and 3, right? So you're at 11. You guys have to be salivating the fact that from a football ranking standpoint, you're getting a guy that's going to be, you know, maybe the 5th best player on a board.
Yeah, very, very potentially we could. Oh, absolutely, Bob. You know, it's. I mean, there are people saying there's going to be before it's all said and done, 5 Qs could go in front of us, and you know, I'm saying go, go, go. I will not be upset, but no, absolutely, we're in a good spot, and we're gonna get some real good players.
Dave, we appreciate a couple minutes. I know the Giants season ticket holders watching this Giants Town Hall appreciate you taking a couple minutes, and best of luck with the draft next week, and we'll visit again.
Thanks so much, and I hope everybody's staying safe, and God bless you all.
Thanks, Dave.